Hey, what's going on guys? RVZ Stealth here, and in today's video I'm going to give you my opinion on the best AD carries for Season 4, patch 4.19. But before I get into the video, I just want to clear something up, and that is the order I put the champions in on my list really doesn't matter too much. Like, the champion at number 1 is going to be a little bit stronger than the champion at number 5, but all the champions in the middle, they could be interchanged. Like, number 5 could easily be number 3, so I just want to let you guys know that the order really doesn't matter too much, and all of the champions are really strong at the moment. So, without further ado guys, let's get into the top 5. So at my number 5 spot, I have Lucien. Lucien recently received some pretty big nerfs, and that is why he's dropped on my list. His W got nerfed where the AD ratio is no longer on it, and his ultimate's on a much longer cooldown now. So those are two really big cons to Lucien after the last patch, and that is why he's not higher on my list, but there's still a lot of good things about Lucien. Pros to him are he's got great poke in lane with his Q. The Braum Lucien lane is still pretty OP. He's a really strong duelist, and he snowballs really hard. He's also got good mobility in his E. But cons to Lucien, like I said, are his W has no more AD ratio on it, his ultimate is now on a longer cooldown, and his wave clear is a little bit weaker now because his W won't be hitting as hard. Next up on my list, I have Graves. So Graves is making his first appearance on my list in a while, and I think with all the recent nerfs to AD carries like Lucien and Tristana, Graves deserves a spot on this list because he's got insane level 6 burst. Once you get your ultimate as Graves, you do a lot of damage. He's also got great AoE damage with his W, his Q, and his ultimate. He's got pretty strong mobility as well with his E, and he's also a really strong laner. His passive also makes him pretty tanky, and he's got a really strong mid game as well. Cons to Graves though are he does have a weaker late game, so you want to be able to do well in the early game as Graves, and that's where he does his best, so you don't want to be falling behind with Graves because whenever I play him, it seems like if the game goes to late game, then he does fall off, and he is very weak when behind as well. Next up on my list, I have Jinx. So pros to Jinx are she's an insane tower pusher, arguably the best tower pushing AD carry in the game, if not the best, with her with a passive on her Q. She's got great CC as well with her W and her E, and she's got great poke in lane as well with her W and her Q. She synergizes well with engaged supports. For example, Blitzcrank, Leona, Thresh, Nami are a few supports that synergize really well with Jinx because when they engage and use their CC on whoever they're engaging on, what Jinx can do is she can put her flame chompers behind them, and that makes it so the enemy is either forced to straight up fight you or they're forced to flash over your flame chompers. She also snowballs really hard, and her ultimate is pretty strong, especially for picking off low health targets. Her passive is also really good for team fighting because once you can get one kill in a team fight as Jinx, then it's going to be really hard for you to get caught out because you're just going to be zipping around, and it's going to be really hard for the opponents to lock onto you. Cons to Jinx are she does have weak mobility, so if you're not really good at positioning, then Jinx probably isn't the best choice for you. She is also semi-skill shot reliant with her W and her ultimate, so if you're not too great at landing skill shots, then Jinx might not be the best AD carry for you as well. So next up on my list, I have Sivir, and Sivir is really high on my list because of the recent nerfs to like Lucien, and I also believe that she's like really underrated right now, and her ultimate is just so strong for solo queue, and you can just set up so many plays with it. Pros to Sivir are her spell shield is really strong, especially for against like Blitzcrank, Morgana, Thresh. She counters so many engaged supports because of her spell shield. She's got really strong poke in lane as well with her Q. She's got really strong wave clear with her W and her Q. And her ultimate, like I said, is arguably one of the best ultimates for solo queue because you can use it to engage on your opponents, you can use it to disengage, you can use it to get out of sticky situations. There's just so many ways that you can use Sivir's ultimate, and it's such a strong ability. Cons to Sivir though are she does have a short auto attack range, so you have to be careful that you're not going too close up in team fights, but with her ultimate, you're going to be able to kite really easy, and it kind of makes up for her short auto attack range. Her Q did get nerfed a lot, so it doesn't do a lot of damage anymore, but once you get some AD items, it starts to hit pretty hard. And she is also mana hungry early game, so you have to be careful that you're not spamming your mana in the early levels. So number 1 on my list is Corky, and this should really be no surprise to you guys. He's pretty much the best AD carry in the game right now in my opinion, because he's just got such a strong early and mid game. He's got insane burst damage, he has a huge power spike when he picks up his Triforce. He is the best AD carry duelist come mid game, because once he picks up that Triforce, he's literally unkillable in a 1v1 situation against the other AD carry. He's got crazy poke as well with his ultimate and his Q, and he also does AP and AD damage, so if your team looks like you're going to have a little bit too much AD, then you can play Corky, because his ultimate does AP damage, and I'm pretty sure his Q does AP damage as well. I'm not 100% on that, but I definitely know that his ultimate does do magic damage. He has a long-range gap closer in his W, so you can use that to get out of situations, you can use that to kite back. It's just a really strong gap closer ability, and he's hard to lose lanes as well. Like, once you pick up the Sheen and the Phages Corky, you're like, literally, you can't lose a matchup unless you're either unfamiliar with Corky or you're just really bad at the game, because he's such a strong AD carry right now and you can't really go wrong with playing him. He also counters Tristana really hard, which is why she's not on my top 5, because she's just got so many counters in lane now, and if you're smart enough, then if you're going up against a Tristana, you'll pick someone like Corky, you'll pick someone like Lucien or Graves, so that's why Tristana's not on my list. Cons to Corky are he is semi-skill shot reliant, so if you're not good at landing skill shots, then maybe play someone like Lucien or play someone that doesn't have too many skill shots. He also does fall off late game compared to some of the other AD carries. But honorable mentions for this patch are going to include Draven, Vayne, and Ezreal. So Draven, he's a really strong AD carry if you can catch your Qs, because if you can't catch your Q, then his damage falls off significantly. So I'd say if you are confident that you can catch your axes as Draven, then play him, because his damage is absolutely insane if you can start snowballing and get a couple kills in the early game. Vayne, she's also very mechanically intensive, but if you do have good mechanics as an AD carry and you can survive the early game as Vayne, then she's going to be, like, she's arguably the best late game AD carry other than maybe Tristana and Kog'Maw. And if you do have good mechanics as Vayne, then you're going to be able to carry games really hard. And Ezreal is also on my honorable mentions because his damage early game is surprisingly strong, and if you can get out to an early lead in the early game, then Ezreal can be really strong come mid game, because he's got his Q, which he can use to poke down his opponents, and he's got his ultimate, which is really strong for wave clear as well. He's also got his E, which is really strong, which is a strong gap closer. So Ezreal's got a really strong kit, but because he's really skill shot reliant, he's not on my list, because you're better off playing champions that don't have many skill shots unless you're really confident in your play as an AD carry. So that is all for the video, guys. If you enjoyed, then be sure to like and subscribe for more League of Legends content. And if you're wondering why I didn't include a certain champion on my list, then be sure to comment below asking me why, and I'll get back to you on that very shortly. But thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in my next video.